Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Ivani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Monday, October 6th. Investors are heading into a new week with uncertainty over what economic data we'll actually see or miss, depending on the status of the ongoing government shutdown. Despite a mixed close on Friday, markets managed to kick off October in positive territory, posting a winning week overall. The Dow added 238 points, the S&P 500 held onto green just above the flat line, and the NASDAQ slipped 63 points, and that was weighed down by weakness in the tech sector, which seems to be turning around today. So, Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Yeah, markets are positive. They're indicating a higher opening. We're up 0.34% on the S&Ps this morning. That's good to see. And really, we're seeing some gains in tech shares as they're displaying outperformance this morning. One of the key events happening today, like OpenAI is having its DevDay today, and there's going to be a keynote speech from CEO Sam Altman, which is scheduled at 1 p.m. And then there was a deal that with OpenAI and AMD, which is positive. So yeah, we get some definite positive momentum in tech stocks this morning. But geopolitical, developments are on watch. Did you see those Japanese markets overnight? I mean, they really surged with the election of a pro-stimulus candidate. French stocks, on the other hand, they're taking a nosedive due to the resignation of the prime minister after just 1 month on the job. And you here in the U.S., closer to home, we got to talk about the shutdown because the U.S. continues to be shut down, and there's no active talks apparently underway. Airlines got to be on watch because past shutdowns have led to air traffic controller staffing issues. So you want to keep an watch on the airlines. I don't see a crack yet, but if this shutdown continues on for next week, they're going to start calling in sick, which is going to lead to delays and which will lead to lower stock prices for the airlines. So you want to be a little cautious with those airlines. In deal news, Third Bancorp, that's FITB, Frank India Tom, boy, they're going to buy Comerica, CMA, Charlie Michael Apple. Earnings action is kind of quiet. After the bell today, you got Constellation Brands, that's STZ. Tomorrow you got MKC that they're scheduled to report. But for the most part, earnings action is a little quiet this week. And then we're turning our attention over to Europe just to kind of do a recap of what's going on. The DAX was lower, it's now higher. It's higher by 0.25%. And autos are mostly higher, so that's good on the Europe front. Remember, they had a big day last Friday. The FTSE is also higher, by 0.15%. You're seeing energy stocks, some gains there, but the CAC, it's down 1.24%, or 100 points. Financial stocks are underperforming due to the political shakeup. It was down worse. It was down like 1.8%. So now that it's only down 1.24%, it's just going to show you that cooler heads are starting to prevail. But this is all due to the shakeup as the prime minister resigned 1 month into the job. And then we're turning our attention over to Asia last night, and most of the Asian markets were closed. But you look at Tokyo, the Nikkei jumped 2,175 points. That's 4.75%. The key development: the election of a prime minister who's a fiscal dove and pro-stimulus and a weakening yen. That just caused that market to rally and up 4.75% after a big gain on Friday. That's very positive. Then you look at Hong Kong. Now, Hong Kong fell 0.67%. Volumes were light. Most sectors were lower. They got a holiday tomorrow, and then you get the Chinese markets, mainland China markets, that are closed due to the holiday. They don't open up until October 8th. So yeah, I'm not surprised that Hong Kong, finished a little lower, but that's okay. And then we turn our attention over to oil, and oil is running. I mean, it's higher. I mean, WTI is trading at $61.19 a barrel. Brent is trading at $64.91 a barrel. Both are up over 0.5%, but I was seeing increases of well over 1% this morning. The key development was OPEC's meeting yesterday. they came out and they agreed to a modest increase in production of 131,000 barrels per day starting in November. That was the key development in yesterday's meeting. Remember, Friday, markets were talking about an increase of 500,000 barrels per day. And I told you that was way too high. That just didn't make sense to me. And sure enough, they didn't come out with anything near that. They came up with a production increase of 137,000. So, you look at oil, it is trading higher. It is moving higher this morning on that news, which is exactly what I would expect. So, oil is showing gains in the pre-market. And that's what I have for your morning market update, Emily.
Bill, you're one step ahead of me. I was going to point out that on Friday, you did mention that OPEC meeting, and you did anticipate a more modest production level than was anticipated. And because of that, you made a pick of the day that sort of went along with that, anticipating that meeting yesterday. And by the end of the show, we will do a check-in on that to see how that pick is working out. And you're also keeping an eye on, along with that pick, other things, as you mentioned, the tech sector, the airline sector, geopolitical issues, and we're watching what's happening here on U.S. soil when it comes to the government shutdown and how those effects will be reverberating throughout the markets. We're going to be following all of that action right here on NewsWare's Trade Talk every morning, day in and day out, so we can prepare for the trading day ahead. One of the areas that we'll keep track of, even though it's a little muted right now, is earnings action. But Bill, any notes on what's going on in terms of earnings?
You get Stars Constellation Brands, ticker STZ, Sam Tom Zebra. They're announcing after the bell today. Their EPS is $3.37 with an expected move of 6.26%. Beer sales have been weakening lately. Alcohol sales are not what they used to be. MKC, McKesson, they're going to be releasing tomorrow morning. McCormick, they're going to be releasing tomorrow morning. This is the spice maker. Their EPS is 81 cents. Expected move is 6.36%. But that's all I have for you about upcoming earnings, Emily.
And Bill, as earnings pick up, we will keep track of all of that using our NewsWare, gathering those reports with our earnings alert. We also have alerts set up for economic reports, which are probably going to be muted as well until we get some word on what's going to happen next with the government shutdown here in the U.S. So light on the economic front when it comes to reports, but there are other things to point out when it comes to the Fed, including looking ahead to Fed meeting minutes due out later this week. So, Bill, what is going on in terms of economic events?
Yeah, there are no economic events happening today. And you're right. The big highlight for the week is going to be on Wednesday with the release of those Fed meeting minutes. That's what the market's going to kind of be looking forward to. We do got a little Fed speak today. At 5 p.m., Kansas City Fed Bank President Jeffrey Schmidt is scheduled to talk. But those meeting minutes are really going to be key because remember, you got a small block of Fed officials that are really pushing for lower interest rates. And they just don't have the numbers to push that through. But that's this year. Next year's a different story because remember, in 2026, there are a number of Fed bank presidents, their terms will be expiring, including John Williams from the New York Fed, Lori Logan of the Dallas Fed, Neil Kashkari of the Minneapolis Fed. Remember, they're all going to be voters next year for the Fed meeting. So you get those three, plus you get the other three, which Stephen Moran, Christopher Waller, and Michelle Bowman, and a new Fed chairman. Yeah, you're going to see interest rates start to come down because they're going to make sure that this happens. So you got to be, if you're looking ahead and seeing the developments of what's going to happen in 2026, if these three key Fed officials, Fed bank presidents, their terms may not be extended. So that could cause a real shakeup in the mixture of doves versus hawks on the Fed board, Emily.
And Bill, one thing that, adds a ton of value is that you're able to look ahead, look behind, and also look at day-to-day action. And part of that is your historical knowledge, and part of that is your newsware, having this information at your fingertips. You can collect historical data, you can look ahead to upcoming events, but you can also keep track the market moving action of the day as it hits the tape. You're doing all of this using alerts, things for merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls. You also look at your stocks grouped together, like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks, to track any trends on the trading day. So, Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
I'm just looking at my Dow stocks. I got 7 lower, 23 higher on the Dow. So, that's kind of showing you that we're off to a nice start this morning. You're looking at some of the news behind the tape, like Apple. Their supplier Foxconn reportedly had record revenues for the month of September and for Q3. I mean, they missed some numbers on Q3, but they were very strong. Amazon, we're seeing some gains in Amazon this morning. Remember, their Prime Day sales event, their fall sales event starts tomorrow. Tesla, you look at shares of Tesla and they are trading higher this morning, which is good to see. Tesla's up about 2% because they are indicating that they're gonna have an announcement tomorrow. We don't know what the announcement's going to be. I mean, it could be an update on their fully self-driving vehicle that they're touting. It could be an update on that next generation roadster car that they're supposedly in development of. But we'll wait and see. But there's indications out there that Tesla is going to be making an announcement tomorrow, which is why you see the stock moving higher by 2% this morning. You're looking at your Dow Jones 30s, and you just got to talk about Chevron for a second, CVX, which is up like 0.5% this morning. That OPEC meeting with results of 137,000 barrel per day production increase is really the key catalyst because markets were looking for a much larger production hike, and a lower production hike means oil prices go up. And typically when you have rising oil prices, you get increases in equity valuation. So you've seen gains in Chevron this morning. Boeing, we got to talk about shares of Boeing up over 0.5% this morning. Ticker BA. Boy, Apple. They're going to be increasing their monthly production of the 737 jets from 38 to 42 starting this month, and they're going to do even more increases in the months to come. So yeah, Boeing is on watch this morning because of those increased production numbers. In terms of merger deals, there are deals that are out there. AMD, they announced a multi-year agreement to supply artificial intelligence chips to OpenAI. Fifth Third Bancorp, FITB, Frank India, Tom Boyd, they're going to be acquiring Comerica, CMA, Charlie Michael, Apple. Now, this is an all-stock transaction. It's valued at $10.9 billion. Ooh, in terms of guidance news, we got to talk about Abiva, ticker ABBV, Apple Boy Victor. On Friday, after the bell, they lowered their Q3 EPS to $1.74 to $1.78. That's down to like $1.50, and it's really due to the negative impact from IPR&D milestone expenses. So yeah, but the ABBV, that's lowering guidance. Not really positive. And the stock is trading lower, but only by about 0.5% this morning. In terms of shareholders meetings, Dell's having an invitation-only analyst meeting tomorrow. Think about that. Invitation only. They're only going to invite the analysts that are going to write good things about them. So yeah, Dell trading higher, big. It's up like $3 this morning. OpenAI is hosting its OpenAI development event today. Sam Altman is going to be making the keynote speech at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's out of San Francisco. In terms of catalyst calls, we get Citibank. This is kind of interesting because Citibank just opened up a positive catalyst watch on SATS, Sam Apple Tom Sam. That's EchoStar Holdings. It's a 90-day positive catalyst watch. So yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. But that's what I have for you about news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have to start the week?
I'm going to go with General Motors, ticker GM, Grace Mary. You look at those Asian automobile companies, Honda, Toyota, they're rallying off of that, new prime minister and her dovish commentary and ideas for stimulus. And I think that we're going to see that, be a benefit to General Motors today. And then I look at yesterday's call volume and Friday's call volume in GM, 35,789. Versus 11,786. That's really positive. That's almost, that's more than 3 to 1. And then you look at the open interest, 231K versus 206K, which is about even, but definitely on the call side. And you look at the major brokers, and they're all raising price targets on the stock. So, without an earnings play, I got to look for something else. And I do like the autos right now, and I do think we could see some gains in the auto sector, but I'm going to say, GM 59.75-ish, give or take 15 cents, as my entry price. But General Motors, ticker GM, Grace Mary, that's my pick of the day, Emily.
General Motors, it is, looking at that auto sector today. Again, using sort of a different set of data points to make that pick instead of earnings, which is what you did on Friday. And we did mention that at the top of the show. And in just a moment, we will do a recap on Friday's pick of the day and see how the oil sector worked out. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
United Airlines and Instacart launch a new collaboration. That's interesting. TTC, Toro Company, acquired Tornado Infrastructure Equipment for, $1.92 Canadian. Okay. TDS, Paul David Sam, Precision Drilling, they appoint Kerry Ford as their president and CEO. Galaxy Digital, GLXY, Grace Larry X-Ray Yellow, they're up 10% in the pre-market, after launch of Galaxy One. Tesla's German car sales down 9.4%, 9.4% in September. Ooh, that's ugly. The stock's up big because of the pending announcement tomorrow, but we'll see if they're able to hold on to those gains. AMD spiked 26% to 207 following that OpenAI partnership. Starbucks closing stores, we knew about that. Nvidia got a price target upgrade from a big major broker today. Critical metals share surge after a report saying that the Trump administration is talking about an equity stake. Eli Lilly to invest over $1 billion in India to expand manufacturing capability. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into trading on this Monday, kicking off another week, let's take a quick look back on Friday's pick of the day, which was ExxonMobil. Now, I did mention earlier in the show that you were anticipating that OPEC meeting that happened yesterday, and you pointed it out that the decision was intentionally modest, as you expected. This was reflecting caution, over growing concerns of a possible supply surplus and weakening demand. That has meant that ExxonMobil, XOM, is trading higher this morning, much as you anticipated. Bill, how did your call work out?
Worked out really well. I mean, look at the numbers. Stock opened up at 111.90, then ran and hit a high at 113.75. There's your 1%. And, before closing at 113.26, and you look at it this morning, it's trading, up, to 113.89, but it actually hit a high at 114.21 in the pre-market. So easily the 1% was there off that opening price. I mean, that definitely was there. So ExxonMobil, I mean, it was very clear to me that this was going to happen. This was one of those ones that, this is one of those things that you think is a sure thing. And I didn't see any way that the OPEC was going to, come out with a $500,000, production hike. And they did. They came in with a modest hike, which is what they were expecting at the beginning of the week. But media just got all over it and started up and up and up and up in the potential of a bigger cut. And it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. And as a result, we're seeing oil prices move higher, which, is helping oil stocks move higher. So ExxonMobil on Friday, winner, winner, winner.
Bill, in the absence of earnings and real, economic data points, government economic data points, you used a different sector, a different set of information to make that pick. Fact-based and data picking on hand made it a win, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's General Motors pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning this week at NewsWare's Trade Talk, when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.